I just wanted to take a few moments and share some of my candid thoughts with you guys after I lost my mother last week. It was really unexpected, and I know it was heart wrenching, not just for me and my family, but for a lot of the members of this team who have come to get to know her on this journey. And because her connection to this campaign was so strong, and because of the many people who were inspired by her example and her story of coming to America and realizing the American dream and raising a family in this country, I felt like it was probably best to at least share with you a little bit on my experience and background on what happened. But essentially, Wednesday night. And for those of you who aren't aware, my mother had come down. She lives in Alaska. She'd come down to my home in Eagle, Idaho. She's been helping us watch the kids, and anyone who's followed the campaign knows we're a young family. I have two young kids. Dallin is 4 years old. Ruby is 9 months old, and we needed more help at the house because of how much this campaign demands to invest the energy that it takes to win. And it was a great relief to have her here at the house and have someone that I love and trust immensely here with my children, and to just have that influence here in the house. We had good days and bad days, and through it all, my mother was there to provide her counsel and her wisdom, and I was always so thankful for that. But last Wednesday, my mom went to her room for bed just like any other night, and she passed away in the night here in our home. And I had left to go out of town, and my wife Holly discovered her in the morning and called me and let me know. And that's a really difficult phone call to get, and more difficult to come home and meet with the sheriff's deputies and the coroner, and see your mom like that. I would say that I hope more people learn from my example. I'm really grateful my mother was here. I'm so grateful that we had our arms linked together for a common cause, and we were on this journey together. And I think that's something that's really special that not a lot of families get to enjoy. But the one thing I hope people learn from my example is, never miss that day to tell your loved one, and if your mother's still here, to tell your mother you love her, and make sure to just savor those moments along the way. I think that, as even though I spent a bit of time with my mom, over the last 2 months, I didn't have as many heart to hearts with her as I would like, just because the hours are so demanding. But one of the things that I think I'll remember about her in the last weeks of her life is the interactions we had, the very brief and short interactions that we had here at the house. And so there's a level of guilt that you carry when you're campaigning and traveling the whole state as much as I do when it comes to your children, particularly the young children. So I always savored every moment I could get with the kids, but there's some guilt that you carry as well when you see your kids. And my baby girl Ruby, she would get in the habit when she'd see me at the house, but I was, in work mode and just going from one thing to the next and trying to get back to my office. Ruby would make this yell, this loud yell, and it wasn't a crying scream, but it was just a yell to get my attention. I would always stop and look at her, and you just kind of get that feeling, that guilt that kind of weighs you down a little bit. But my mom would always tell me, she would say, "Don't stop, keep going," and her words are ringing in my mind even now when I'm sharing this with you. My mom was as gritty of an individual as you will ever find. She did not back down, and she was a scrappy lady, and she fought for everything that she got here in this country. And she loved this country dearly. She was so invested in this campaign. It meant the world to her because she understands that most of the world does not have the American dream. And she lived in Eastern Europe and lived in a place and saw and heard so many examples of how other countries don't have access to the beauty of this country. And it's just that idea that you can reach for the heights of your own personal potential. And so much of the world doesn't have that. And my mother wanted us, her family, to fight for that dream more than anything and preserve that for her grandkids as well, because in many ways I've had the opportunity to live the American dream in my life as well. And you know, I'll probably share some photographs with you guys as time goes on. You know, when I was 4 years old, I always share the story. There were 6 of us that were in an 18-foot travel trailer in northern Arizona. And my mother relished in that. She was so grateful that we went through that as kids, because it instilled inside each of us a fire and a grittiness to get any job done. And she was really proud of that, that she was able to instill that in her children, and we carry that fire with us even now. But she was invested wholeheartedly in this campaign. She would watch every one of these videos that I did, of course, like any mother would do. And she would share her thoughts with me along the way. And I will tell you, my mother, just to give you an idea, my mother, you know, when it comes to these, you know, international groups that don't have any allegiance to our country, that we, you know, put so much of our money and time into, like the World Economic Forum, you know, and these types like Klaus Schwab and all these types, there was nobody that was more fired up about that stuff than my mother. She understood how these socialists, these communists in other countries wanted to infect this land with that sickness. And she was so attuned to it, so sensitive to it, and would not back down a single inch to the likes of someone like Klaus Schwab that wants to leverage, you know, an international monetary order to bring our nation to heel to his ideology, his perverse and corrupt ideology. You know, I would talk to my mother about those things, and we would talk about what happened in World War II. I had family. My family was carved out of World War II. All those European nations, and that conflict really really created the spirit and the identity of my family. And I'm grateful that we were forged in that kind of conflict, because it was in that conflict of ideas where we found our place, and where we found our spine, I guess. And I found a lot of courage in those stories, listening to my mother and my aunt and my brother, and they shared all these stories with me, coming over, and my cousins, of what had happened over there. And I will tell you, my mother was deeply concerned about the direction our nation is headed in, excuse me. And she wanted more people to step up in the way that Holly and I have stepped up in this campaign. And I really hope that you will do that. That's the best way I can think to honor her legacy, is really to continue to work hard. And I'm not saying that this isn't emotionally taxing in the least. It is very, very taxing. And in all candor, that, you know, one of the last things I want to do right now is go on the campaign trail. You know, I was at the funeral parlor today, and we're setting everything up for her final services. And that's not an easy thing to do while you're running a statewide campaign. But I just hear her voice ringing out in my head, you know, keep going, don't stop. And to honor her, that's exactly what I'm going to do. But you know, I'll share a few more things. For those of you who didn't meet her, my mother, Mariana Holiday was her name. Her real last name was Prasnik, which translates to holiday. And she carried that name in this country. My mother, she cleaned, and those of you who'd come to events where she had the opportunity to attend, I always tried to honor her and highlight this. But when my mother came to this country, she didn't speak English. But my mother, she cleaned hotel rooms. She cleaned office buildings. She worked in restaurants. My mother worked like a dog when she came to this country. And just so you know just how fiery she was, I only speak English. That's the only language I know. My mother, she said, we're in America now, we speak English in our home. And I only ever learned English. And my mother came to this country, if you can believe this, beyond coincidence, my mother came to this country on July 4th, 1987. My mother came here on the 4th of July, if you can believe that. and she gave us an incredible love for this nation and everywhere. Even my home, she would set up. She always had this ability. She left things more beautiful than she found it. Always, wherever she went, it was going to be left in a better shape than she found it. That was her ethos. That was just her very spirit. And so my mother, she planted all these flower pots all around the house, and I love it, and she enjoyed doing it, and I'd never stop her from doing it, and made the house so much prettier. But my mom, she would take a little American flag and put it in each one of those pots along with the flowers, and that's just how she operated in that way. And she didn't get to come to a lot of the campaign events. She came to quite a few, though. I'll say as many as she was able to, and she got in there and worked hard with the rest of the team as well. Somebody shared with me the story of they had to clean out that RV that was lent to the campaign, and my mother, she got in there, she cleaned the carpet, she cleaned everything else, and it was like 100 degrees outside and just deathly hot. And this is last year, and she just worked until the job was done. She took that spirit into everything that she did. And so my mother, I watched my mother. She was an LPN, I think, licensed practical nurse, or excuse me, no, she a CNA, and then LPN, and then became an RN. And one of the things people don't know much about my background, but when my mother lived in Arizona, my father lived in Colorado. When I lived with my mother, we frequently lived with the people that she was taking care of. And that was an interesting experience for me as a young boy, to be around those people that she cared for. And I watched my mother, even though English was her second language, she continued to teach her to educate herself, right, and seek new certificates, and she got an associate's in nursing and was able to be a registered nurse. But my mother, she worked in the burn unit at the hospital. That was one of the first jobs she had at the hospital. And she really tended to and cared for a lot of those burn patients. And because of her experience doing that, she actually really discovered some, I don't know if I'll call them holistic medicines. I'm not an expert when it comes to those things, but my mother practiced a lot of different things with essential oils and the like, because she had seen the effect on burn patients, and she had a real effect in their lives. And she was such a caring and compassionate individual. I'll tell you, she invested herself wholly into whatever she was involved in, whether that was just a job that she had, whether it came to raising us kids, being on this campaign, getting an education. She didn't hold back any part of herself. She really jumped in with both feet. I'm terribly sad that she passed away at 68. I feel like at 68, my mother had so much more that she could give the world, but that just wasn't the Lord's plan for her. I will continue to pray and seek guidance in what her examples should mean for her posterity, for my children, what it should mean really for Idaho. My mother, she didn't necessarily call Idaho home. Alaska was her home, but because of my involvement here in Idaho and in the community, she loved Idaho because she had that free spirit, like so many of us share in this state. But as the campaign goes on, I'll share more and more tidbits with you that I can remember of her. But I would not say that this is over for me in the way that I'm totally at peace and I've solved all this in my own head. Losing your mother is pretty devastating, especially when you don't even get the chance to say goodbye. This was totally and completely unexpected by anyone in our family. And although I'm a financial advisor by trade, it's always difficult as you go through the estate process and try and handle her affairs and sort things out so that everything is taken care of and there are not any problems down the road. And that is really difficult, especially when you're 1 month out from an election in which you've invested 10 months of your life into, not just 10 months of my life either, folks. This is my mother's life was invested in this, my wife, my children, so many members of my family, so many of my friends, people in this community have been invested in this campaign, and I won't betray what everyone has done by slowing down or giving up on this effort. I will take a little more time, certainly, to sort through things and make sure that I can honor the spirit of both her legacy and this campaign as we move forward. So I appreciate how understanding everyone has been with me. And I just want you to know this campaign meant the world to my mama, and it gave her immense hope for our future. She saw what these people across this country and across the world right now are doing to try and weaken and destroy America. And my mama would gladly give her life for this country, and she was invested in this cause. She was working the hours that I was working to help with things like cooking, with laundry, and with kids, and even attend events and follow things on social media and connect with other members of the team. In my mind, there's no doubt, my mama, she could have been on a beach somewhere just relaxing and enjoying retirement, but she was here, she was in the fight, and I really consider her a martyr in the cause for freedom. Her life story is one of seeking after that freedom and wanting to preserve it to the people, for the people that she loved. And heck, the way it works, you preserve it for some of the people you don't like all so much either, but it's just better that way. And so I hope you'll include her in your prayers. I know our Heavenly Father is welcomed her with arms wide open. I'm going to continue to pray to feel that peace that I know she now feels. But I'll tell you this: learn from this. You might not get a chance to say goodbye to some of the people you love the most. Take more pictures with them. It's okay. You can send them a text. You don't have to have any big reason to send someone a text, and let them know how much they mean to you. Of the regrets that I feel, I really regret that I didn't take more time to tell my mother how much I appreciated her and how much I loved her. And I hope you'll learn from that example. I know in my life I'm not gonna learn that lesson again. But as my mother would say, don't stop, keep going, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Thank you guys so much for your understanding and for being on this journey with us. It's been incredible. It's one for the history books, and it ain't over yet, folks. Take care.